All right, I feel like it's time to make another video. I've only made one so far, so I think I got 14 views. Probably 10 of those were me. I want to talk about why Donald Trump is not wrong about the tariffs. And I spent the last 3, 4 days with very sleepless nights, waking up with a lot of stress, dealing with a lot of anger about this because it seems like Donald Trump is destroying the global economy and destroying the economies not only of the United States, but of countries that don't have much of a safety net beyond the global economy. So I'm thinking about places that I love, like Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, places in Southeast Asia, Malaysia to a lesser extent because they sort of decoupled themselves from the American monetary system way back in the early 90s, as I understand. So they're much more independent, but the United States dollar is the reserve currency for these countries. Like Cambodia, you get dollars out of the ATM in Cambodia, and when you use them, you get back. You actually use them in the economy, and you get back the local currency. I can't remember what it is, but you can't actually get local currency out of the Cambodian ATM. So I've been angry about that. I've been upset about that, and yet I needed to learn more. And what I've learned is Donald Trump has not declared war on any of these countries. He has not. He has declared, and war is a very aggressive term. He has declared an end to the World Trade Organization as we know it. And beyond that, he has declared an end to the United States dollar as the reserve currency of the global monetary system. Why do I think that's a good thing? So that's been what I've been, once I figured out that's what he's done, then it was a question of, is that a good thing? So you need to look at both sides. There is such a thing as what's known as the Triffin paradox or Triffin Dilemma. And it was formulated in the early 1960s and proven accurate by 1971 already, that a country that has a currency that is acting as a reserve currency for other countries must constantly exist in a trade deficit in order to keep that reserve status strong, because what you're doing is you're actually underwriting the economy of these other places. So this was necessary after World War II for the United States to build the economies of Western Europe and Japan specifically. And by the 70s, this became necessary to continue to have the dollar as the currency that is used for business transactions, is how I understand it. So it is what's used for oil. That was done in the 70s by an agreement with the Saudis. And then it's the currency of building factories. It's the currency of purchasing large bulk items. This is the way that I understand it. But even if I'm wrong about how I understand it, the end equation is still the same, that the reserve currency means the country whose currency is acting as the reserve currency has to continually act in a trade deficit so that it incurs more and more debt while losing its manufacturing, because that's the necessary sort of outflow in order to keep this system solvent which is the system that we have, uh, that has been in place since the late 40s, that succeeded in undermining communism, won the Cold War. So what happened in 1971? And you should look this up. The Triffin Dilemma will lead you to what happened in 1971 that forced Nixon to remove the U.S. dollar from the gold standard. And I've known about this for a long time, but I didn't understand the significance of it until these last few days, because the U.S. dollar was basically a note for gold up until 1971. You could take your dollar and you could get the equivalent amount of gold. And all these countries in the world had these dollars that they had been stockpiling, that they've been using to invest in their industrial infrastructure, and some of them, famously France, apparently decided that they were going to trade in all their dollars for actual gold. And once that sort of started, France actually sent like a warship to the United States to collect all this gold and take it back to France. And the Nixon administration realized, hey, we don't have enough gold to do this. Like this is impossible, because we have continually had to send out our dollars, and we don't have enough gold to support the dollars anymore, because we've exported dollars to a deficit of our gold levels. So he decoupled the dollar. Nixon decoupled the dollar from the gold standard, and that was the last time that the global economy had a massive shock. And the shock was, I mean, I'm a little bit hesitant to say this because it's going to sound like it's possible that this is going to happen. And it sounds like, man, why would you do such an idiot move? But I'm going to explain why. The shock created the recession of the 70s, the huge inflation, the gas prices out of control. This is the shock that initiated the sort of economic context of the 70s, and we didn't come out of it until Reagan in the early 80s, who was the benefactor of a number of other things that Nixon did, which was to say, okay, we're going to decouple the gold, but we're going to keep the dollar as the reserve standard. And he did that because of the Cold War. Like, he couldn't just say the United States is not going to be the reserve monetary system for the world, for the free world at the time, because then we're just handing the victory to communism. Like, we have to continue to support this global economic system that we've been developing in places like Singapore is one of the hotspots in Asia, Hong Kong at the time. I'm not sure about where in Africa were the hotspots, but obviously Western Europe and the United States. So once that system took hold, then we saw the economic turnaround of the 80s. But what happened was Nixon went to China and opened China to this system. And China and the United States began to export its manufacturing to China. This is the way that system grew. That's the way the situation we have it now grew. And the World Trade Organization, I don't know exactly when it was initiated. I don't know when it grew into the behemoth that we have today. By the time I became politically conscious in like 1998, 1999, 2000, there were already mass demonstrations against the World Trade Organization in Miami, was a famous one, and in Seattle was probably the most famous one. And a lot of those protesters were the same protesters who were protesting Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street, in 2009, 2010. So the World Trade Organization has been under scrutiny, has been protested, has been under fire by individuals whose agendas range everything from social democracy, communism, all the way to anarchy, to sort of unionism, pro-manufacturing, bring the manufacturing back to the United States. So the problem is that, and it's that last one that I resonate with, bring the manufacturing back to the United States. Obviously, that's what Trump's discourse is. This is the problem. The same problem that Richard Nixon was able to pinpoint in 1971 that caused him to decouple the dollar from the gold, from the gold standard, is the same problem. It's the Triffin Dilemma, which is a country whose currency is a reserve currency for other countries. In order to support those countries, it must export its currency, which means it has to work at a trade deficit. It has to give those countries its money so that those countries can support their industrial manufacturing infrastructure. In the case of Europe, it's a lot of service infrastructure, and then those things leave the host country or the parent country. It's parasitic, and that's a negative term. This served a purpose in the Cold War, again, as the struggle against communism, but then the system never changed. The system never checked itself, and the exportation of industry, manufacturing, and currency at the end, because we've gone into debt with our bonds. In the same way, this is a big issue. The focus on education is part of the same agenda. We'll send kids to university, and we'll be able to print money and put them through school with loans. But that is a way for us to print money, and that's also a way of exporting money. So we're putting more money into the system, and that will eventually get spread. So, for example, when I was at university, I took a lot of my student loans, and I spent time in Europe on them. That's an exportation of the U.S. dollar to Europe through our funds. So there's all kinds of ways that these kinds of things happen. And Donald Trump has said, look, that's enough of that, because what happens is the entire system will collapse. The entire system will collapse. That's the Triffin paradox. The paradox is that the system has to, in order to maintain itself, the host country has to export. If it doesn't export, the system will collapse. If it continues to export, the system will also collapse. So we're at I can't say where we're at in the trajectory towards collapse, but if you believe the rhetoric of the Trump administration, which I personally find to be a little bit, the word I'm looking for has escaped me. But I find it to be too bad that the Trump administration has chosen to use the rhetoric of they have so much more than we have. Their piece of the pie is bigger than our piece of the pie. Like, that discourse doesn't work for me. But the agenda and the end game is still the same. We have to end this system. And he could have done it in some kind of piecemeal fashion, but we're dealing with a parasitic sort of entity, and the way that he's chosen to do it is just rip the Band-Aid off. It's just to cut it off at the head, and to say, look, the exportation stops here. This is the end of it. So really, he talks a lot about the resolute desk. Trump has talked a lot about the buck stopping here. The buck has truly stopped with Donald Trump. Like, he's staked his entire political career upon it, and I think he's done it in a kind of a clever way, because he's said, "Oh, we're going to get rich, and there's going to be so much money." He has no idea, but he could either say, "Look, we're going to enter into some dark time, and there's going to be some corrections that are going to result in uh, people having some economic hard times." He could just be upfront about that, but that's going to cost him his political, like that's going to cost him his political capital. He'll spend it all on that message, and that will be the end of Trump. Or he could say, "Yeah, we're going to get rich," and if it works out that we do get rich, if some miracle happens and we do get rich, then his politics is saved. So I think that it's clever how he messages has got some cleverness to it. I simply regret that's the word I was looking for. It's regrettable that he uses this. Their piece of the pie is bigger than ours, because it looks like he's going to war with each individual country. Donald Trump is, this was my thought, Donald Trump has just declared war on the entire world. No, he's declared war on the World Trade Organization. And if your news is only feeding you the bad news about the tariff, if your news is only feeding you the direst uh, news about Trump's administration, then you really should go and try to find information on the other side, because look up this Triffin Dilemma. I wish that the Trump administration were talking about this Triffin paradox. Once you learn about it, you can't look at things the same way again. You will not look at things the same way again. Your outlook will be changed. And people who are pushing the agenda, I heard Rahm Emanuel on Jon Stewart on the Today Show last night, Monday night, and Rahm Emanuel is like, "Oh, the first thing that we have to do is make sure that everybody's educated." Oh my God! As soon as you say that, I know that you are in the camp of the World Trade Organization, because these people, the education serves two main agendas for them. One is it's a steady flow of capital into the world economy so that it can get exported out, and the reserve capital, the reserve status of the US dollar is then continued towards this total catastrophe for everybody. For everybody. If this continues, if this trajectory continues, it will be catastrophic for everybody. And possibly China already knows this, and they have some game plan for how they would step in and save the day. I really don't know. I would assume they're smart enough to have seen that they had to step in and help save the day in 2008, and probably they weren't in a strong enough position then to sort of take the reins, but they're waiting for another collapse, and then they will take the reins. So I don't know how that would look, but I truly believe that that's their game plan. And people like Rahm Emanuel, this let's continue to give loans to kids so they could go to university, is that agenda. It is delirious. It's delusional and dangerous. And to hear him say, "This is the first thing that we have to do is continue to educate," and the second reason why he wants that is because then you're brainwashing these kids with this global sort of outlook, and then they're robots about the global economy is important, and it's significant to be saved, and it takes so much work to reverse that brainwashing, and by, in another 20 years we'll have hit catastrophe for sure. We'll be we'll like I don't think that we would last that long. So yeah, all right, that's my time. It's about 20 minutes, 20-minute video. That's what I'm shooting for. My second video, we'll see how many people watch it. That's it, man. That's how I understand this situation, and I've looked at it for the last 4 or 5 days. It's been like my obsession to figure this thing out, and I have to say, like most things Trump, I don't agree with his messaging. I think that it's regrettable that he's so aggressive in his messaging, but his policy, I can't disagree with his policy. I really can't. And I have to say, I hope that it works out. Like I really do, because it's necessary. And if you don't agree with me, I hope you'll at least do research to at least be able to say why you don't agree with me. Maybe you think that the global economic system is something that can be salvaged. Maybe you might even think no, it can't be salvaged, but the course correction should have come piecemeal instead of all at once in this abrupt sort of we're waging war on everybody manner. I'm open for a discussion about that either way. At the end of the day, this is what we have now, and I personally hope that Trump sticks to it. I hope that the tariffs stay in place. I hope that and China obviously doesn't understand, or they wouldn't be raising their tariffs, because every time they raise their tariffs, it forces Trump to raise them, to raise the tariffs against them, because he cannot have a trade deficit with China. He cannot. So it's not a game of chicken, where Trump and Xi are like driving directly at each other, and who's gonna swerve out of the way first. It's not. Trump doesn't have a choice. He cannot have a trade deficit. That is the inevitable catastrophe that he is working hard to avoid. This is what I understand. I really feel like I'm accurate, like I have an accurate view, and I wanted to share it. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm delusional, but I don't think I am. So I hope you'll at least give it an ear and give it some thought. Thanks.